Late on July 10th, it was realized that the battle to break through to the Orne River was seriously in question. In fact, the battle for the vital Hill 112 was turning into a stalemate. Major General Thomas decided that a fresh attack would be required to wrest control of the vital summit and the observation points looking south into the German areas. The intense fighting to the northeast had sapped most of the British reserves, leaving only the 5th Duke of Cornwall's Light Infantry, DCLI, which was snatching much-needed rest in the outskirts of Fontaine-Étoupe. It was decided that the gains outweighed the risk, and the 5th DCLI formed up behind the positions held by 4th Somerset Light Infantry along the Caen-Eversey Road. The 5th DCLI was supported by the 7th RTR, who arrived late. The 5th DCLI jumped off across the open ground to clear the remainder of the hill as the 7th RTR arrived. Elements of the 19th SS were dug in, downslope, and supported by miscellaneous panzers. The battle raged up until dark, with artillery from both sides actively affecting the advantage on several occasions. The hill was secured, and several heavy counterattacks were fended off into the night. So, we're back here at the gaming table. This is PanzerBlitz, Hill of Death. This is the introductory paragraph from Situation HOD3. Title is End of Jupiter. First, here's the map area that we're playing on. It's a small map area, so this is a good this is wow, this is maybe, yeah, close to 1/10 of the overall map area. Well, actually, I can't say that because all this area here are the tables taken out of the map area, so small play area though. So we're using hex rows 1800 through 1300, and hexes numbered greater than ending in 17. That is this, and let's see, that is almost the entire play area right there. That is the northern boundary right there, east and west. Yeah, and the southern boundary is right there. So from this German unit right here to this British unit here, this is the play area, and these German forces here and the British forces right here. Victory conditions are interesting. We'll go back to, so you can clearly see in the play area this higher ground here, higher ground. So the victory conditions are: the Germans win if there are any non-disrupted, non-armor German units in any level 3, and actually by errata this should be level 4 hex bordering crest line in the German setup area. So this is the German setup area down here. So the crest line is this right here, I'm assuming. And so, okay. If the British are trying to push the Germans off of the hill, Hill 2318. Okay, so this is Hill 112. So this is Hill 112 with the high point right there. So this is the southern part of Hill 112. So now I get it. If the British are trying to push the Germans off, the Germans need to basically hold the crest line. Okay, so the Germans win if there are any non-disrupted, non-armor German units in any level 4 hex. Oh, so they have to be in the higher hex. They can't even be. They can't be on the downside of the crest line. They have to be on the upside. So that is why I set up the Germans like this, to maximize the number of level 4 hexes adjacent to the crest line. Okay. The scenario lasts 7 turns. The main reason why I chose this scenario was that each side has a combined arms team. So both sides have offboard artillery, both sides have tanks, infantry, Germans have engineers. Yeah, Germans have a 75 PaK 40 unit. Yeah, so generally the combined arms nature of both forces. So these reinforcements can come in by situation note 1. Units may enter, for the British, units may enter in any combination on turns 1 through 3. So I was noting to do an update. Some type of mark should be made here that turns 1, 2, and or 3 are available for British reinforcements to come on. Units must be designated prior to assembling the chit pool. And this is the reinforcement chit that the British will use. So I think that means I have to set aside whatever units I want to have possibly come in. Well, no, it's not possibly. They will come in. No, wait. If the reinforcement chit is the last one in the cup, they would not come in this turn. They would come in at the very beginning of the following turn, if I remember correctly. So I think what they mean by is units must be designated prior to assembling the chit pool. I think what that just means is if the reinforcement chit is going into the container, the cup, at the start of the turn, what units from this pool are represented by that chit have to be identified, and I'll just set them aside. Okay. Now, I'm enjoying playing this game a lot, but and I won't talk about that now. I'll save that possibly for another time. Two things are, I won't even put it. Two things have been frustrating about the rules so far. Just two particular things. Otherwise, things are still good. One of them has to do with this OBA. It's not even noted as OBA. It just says support, which is really vague considering support doesn't seem to be a key term used in the rules. So I don't know why it's called support here, but here clearly you have a name, you have an AP strength and an AT strength. So clearly this is off-board support. So I look over here, the British have 2 artillery request markers, right? There's the picture times 2. I have not found any clear explanation. Well, first of all, there's no clear explanation for how to read these situation cards. I mean, has it gotten to the point where it's just assumed that all of this is known? I don't know, because the bottom line is I've been playing that when it shows at start, there, it says at start these forces and 2 artillery request markers. So I went ahead and figured out that this is that, although I don't think I've seen that spelled out anywhere. But I was playing at start 2 times artillery request. That's what you get for the whole situation. starting now with this scenario, HOD 3, end of Jupiter, I decided, you know what, I want to see what that really means. Does it mean 2 for the whole situation, or does it mean 2 per turn? And I did not. I looked and I looked and I looked, and I still have not found it. I'm not saying it's not here, but I already looked. I already spent some time looking, and I did not find it at all. However, there's one tiny little clause in the Q&A. It's under, it's the Q&A, it's the first Q&A for section 11. Has to do with a situation HOD 2, features 2, SD, KFC, Sonderkampfzeug, anyways, blah, blah, blah. And in the response, there's this clause right here. It says, that is situation 5, in which the British have 2 ARs, those are artillery requests, per turn for 1 OBA. That tiny clause there, first of all, that says OBA. Nowhere on here does it say OBA. So, again, support is what we're referring to? Must be. Must be. And then that makes it sound like the artillery requests are per turn. But I had to infer that from that tiny clause from an answer to a Q&A, which wasn't even about this. So anyways, now I'll switch over, because before I was playing, I'm sorry, well, I don't know if I was playing or not. I know earlier I was thinking that this was just per game. I actually don't remember how I was playing it, but I do remember thinking at some point that this was per game or per situation as a whole. This time I'm going to switch over and use this use these artillery request markers per turn. Okay, so the other rules issue that I found frustrating, and I'm going to see how it plays out here again. Basically, I mean, the general idea is units. General idea is you throw down an op marker, right? An op 0 means that hex. So these 2 mech infantry units are going to do something because they're activated. They do something, and they wind up with either, I think, either a spent disrupted marker or a spent marker, depending on, I guess, the circumstances or whatever. But it's really unclear when you get to rallying, basically. So rallying is attempting to recover from disruption, which is it's the last step in the sequence of play for an individual operations chit. So here's an individual operations chit. You're going to go through artillery request, fire, move, overrun, assault fire, CAT, PanzerBlitz, and then recover disrupted units. So you go, I mean, if units fire, they're marked spent. If units move, they're marked spent. In addition, the spent disrupted chit marker, the half-inch counters with spent disrupted +3 on one side are used to mark combat units that have become disrupted as a result of combat or have failed to recover when making an efficiency roll. So, okay, so recovery Recovering from disruption is under the efficiency rules section, and recovering for disruption, where you're rolling against your force's efficiency value, which is 8 for the British in this scenario. You roll less than or equal to the efficiency rating. Recovery is successful. What is success depends on how it started, right? So if the unit was disrupted, the unit was, I'm sorry. Okay, not okay. The unit was disrupted, but not spent disrupted. They become fresh, and the disrupted marker is removed from the unit. And then they have the other two. What you do if it's spent disrupted, basically they recover but they're still spent. And then failing the recovery roll. Okay, so putting all this together sounds okay, except for one thing. So let's show the example of what I'm getting at. There's one unit here, let's say, whatever, yeah, it doesn't really matter what. Okay, so this mechanized infantry unit here is disrupted at some point. British player can play an op 1 here, and it can try to recover. You roll. If he doesn't make it, okay, this is why I'm thinking these things through. Okay, so okay, let's go through this. So the first time, so he's disrupted, something disrupts him. First time, op marker goes down in one turn, right? Roll for recovery, whatever it is, he fails. The disrupted is going to become a spent disrupted. It's going to become a spent disrupted. If the unit fails its recovery roll, it is marked with a spent disrupted marker, if not already so marked. It was not in this case, right? Okay, so in this case, again, disrupted goes to spent disrupted, and that's just because he failed his recovery attempt. Okay, so this goes away. Now, a second op marker, doesn't matter. Let's say a second op, I mean, there's nothing stopping the British in the same turn from putting down an op 1 marker. And I guess there's nothing stopping him from trying to recover again. And right there is what I don't, frankly, that's what I don't understand, because he's already spent. But I'm saying I guess he gets to, I guess he gets to try again, because there is a rules clause here that says if the unit was marked with a spent disrupted marker and recovers, then the unit is marked with, implying that being marked with a spent disrupted marker at the start of this operations chit sequence does not prevent him from trying to recover. So he rolls again. Okay, let's go through all the examples. Actually, there are only 2 apply. If he fails, he stays with the spent disrupted marker. If he succeeds, then he just goes to, if user, yeah. Then he goes to just a spent marker. I'm not sure why this is, I don't know. The British used 2 op markers. I guess I'm trying to figure out in what other case are you using more than 1 op marker on 1 unit? That's what just seems odd. And really, yeah, okay. And what really, I mean, isn't it? Maybe I'm missing something in the rules here, but this is all in 1 turn. He becomes disrupted. The first object, I'm going to keep these here, as a matter of fact. The first object goes down, roll for recovery. He succeeds. That was an op marker was used to get him fresh again. Then maybe he's disrupted again. Well, he could be disrupted again. There's nothing to stop him from being disrupted again. He's disrupted again. Same turn. Same turn. Another op marker. Roll for recovery. I mean, this could keep going back and forth multiple times, right? Let's just say maybe he gets a spent disrupted marker. Another op marker. All in the same turn. Roll for recovery. The results are you used an op marker, but still, it's not like using an op marker means you can only do recovery. Well, actually, that would actually mean something, but I didn't see that. No, recover disrupted units is clearly a step of the operations chit sequence. Yeah. So again, roll. So either still spent another op marker. He fails. He just stays that way. You just keep going. And then if he succeeds, then he goes to spent, in which case there's no point of, well, I guess that's what bothers me. The way I understand it, if a unit is either disrupted or, and I'm really not sure why it even matters that much, but if he's disrupted or even spent disrupted, you can use all of your op chits. If you want, you can use as many op chits as you want, including all of them, to keep trying to rally in the same turn. And I know that I've only played 2 small scenarios so far, but the net result is, so far in the first 2 scenarios, I had the impression that they're going to rally in the turn. Now, is that what's intended? It's just when it rallies in the turn, maybe? But is it basically the design intent that, yeah, basically there's like a 90% chance that you're going to rally or recover by the end of that same turn? That's an interesting, I mean, if that's the case, why even have this mechanic? Why not just have a step in the turn where you just recover at the end of the turn after all the ops markers are played? I mean, it would be a lot less die rolling and manipulation of markers and stuff. Now, The first thing that it surprises me is how I'm still acting. A unit has a spent disrupted marker on it, and I still get to try to rally it. I'm basically being able to act on a unit that is already spent. You can't do that with anything else, unless I misunderstood that. Unless that's what's meant by this term, units may not attempt to recover during an operation in which they become disrupted. I don't see how that addresses what I'm talking about. I mean, the enemy unit fires on it. Well, at least it should be clear. Combat results. D. Defender is disrupted. Place a spent disrupted marker on top of the defending stack. Any defenders that have already disrupted suffer subclause. All other defenders suffer disruption and are marked with a spent disrupted marker. Okay, so that's interesting. So if the unit is fired on and suffers any negative result, now I see it looks like the unit's fired on, no matter what, it winds up with a defending stack. Whoa. The defender or DERS is disrupted. Place a spent disrupted marker on top of the defending stack. Suffer disruption and are marked with a spent disrupted marker. Okay, so anyways, he's fired on. Any adverse result, he winds up with a spent disrupted marker. Spent disrupted marker. Okay, so spent disrupted marker. Okay, so actually I do need to remember they cannot try to recover in this same operation. Actually I do need to watch for that. But I also don't think that I was making that mistake. So one operation with no op markers spent on this unit, he takes enemy fire. Any negative result, he winds up with spent disrupted. Now the first op marker goes down, and this op marker is doing all this other stuff, but also attempt to recover. Let's just say he fails. Well, no. Let's say he succeeds. Then he goes to, well, when he goes from spent disrupted to spent, then obviously you're not spending to try to recover him again. Okay, but if he fails though, again, he fails, he just stays that way. Second op marker, rolls, fails. Third marker, rolls, fails, still stays that way, from what I understand. Nowhere do I see any type of hard limit like a unit may only such and such. I mean, it's a unit may, it doesn't say a unit may only move once per turn, but when he's done moving, he's marked with a spent marker. So he's not going to, after that unit moves, he's marked with a spent marker. He's not going to, the spent isn't going to come off. Because even if he's here, and let's say the enemy fires on him, he's disrupted. I think makes sense anyways that if he's disrupted from enemy fire, well, yeah, no, you would replace it with a spent disrupted anyways. And then if he recovers, it's still spent, right? So that's how it's controlled, right? One movement per turn. I can see that. Same thing for firing. He fires, he's spent, he's marked spent. But recovery, again, if he's spent disrupted and he successfully recovers, he's spent, and that's it. I guess the only one is the disrupted one, right? He's disrupted, and I'm not sure what this is supposed to represent. Well, actually, he's never just disrupted from fire the first time. So when, unless I was placing the markers wrong, so when would he just have a disrupted marker? When would he just have a disrupted marker? If the unit was disrupted. I may have been placing markers wrong before. All spent is, okay, this is one hard time. At the end of the turn, well, he's like this at the end of the turn, right? But that's in the seems to be unlikely case that he didn't recover. But at the end of the turn, all these spent disrupted markers are replaced with disrupted markers. Okay, this is how he can start the turn, but it's the next turn. So he's going disrupted from one turn to the next. Still seems odd, but I mean, I've gone through all the rules as I've read them, so I mean, it makes sense. Okay, this is the next turn. You place that op 1 marker, you try to recover. It makes sense that if you fail right away, he gets a spent disrupted marker, and that's still not the end. That is not the end. So in one turn, yeah. Okay, so again, he starts the turn, roll, he fails, he's spent disrupted, right? Yeah. You come back again with another op marker, doing a bunch of other things, remember. Now you're rolling again. Now, okay, if you succeed, it's going to switch to a spent marker, and then you're not doing that anymore, but still, if you fail, it stays there. And then a third marker. And he tries to recover again. So clearly multiple. I mean, I kind of understand, okay, at the end of the turn, however, I mean, again, going into the third turn disrupted, how can that happen when you can use 2, 3, 4, 5 op markers to roll to recover? Well, I've got no resolution in talking through this all. I'll just go back to what I've been doing and try to play the rules exactly as they're read. I don't understand what it's trying to simulate, that you get to constantly attempt to recover the unit, especially with ratings of 8 and 9. I mean, that's why I see virtually nobody going through the end of the turn not recovering, unless, again, with, was it 15-minute turns? Unless that's what that's supposed to be trying to cover. Unless the game design, 15 minutes, unless the game design assumption is this platoon would recover most likely within that amount of time. I don't know about that assumption, frankly, but if that's what it is, I mean, it's not like you're paying such a great op chit. It's one thing if the rules said recovery is only with the chit. Then the cost is to use one chit just to try to recover. But I'm using these chits. I find myself using these chits for everything, and it's just like my units that are disrupted are just there, so I might as well keep trying to recover them. And it's one thing if after and it's another thing if, I mean, I can understand if it was, by the way, and then I'll move on. I can understand if a unit is marked spent disrupted. If he's marked disrupted, obviously you can try to recover him. But if he's marked spent disrupted, you can't. This would automatically cycle you through to the next turn, right? Because if he's marked spent disrupted, of course you wouldn't need the +3, right? So it'd be just spent disrupted. You cannot try to rally because the unit's already spent. At the end of the turn, spent disrupted goes to disrupted, and then you can start trying to rally it. That's truly cycling the unit out of good order from one turn into the next. That I can all understand, but that's not how I read the rules. Instead of that, it's spent disrupted or disrupted, doesn't matter. No, well, wait. If it starts disrupted and it fails, it's spent disrupted, but you can still try. Yeah, you can keep trying again. So he's disrupted, fail, 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 fail. At the end of the turn, it goes to disrupted anyways. It's all very odd. That's all very odd. I don't know. I have no idea what that's supposed to be doing. So it's those two things. I'll continue looking, but I don't see anything in the rules that clarify what the intent is with that. All right, so looks like I'm not going to get very far, am I? Setup. Here's another thing, which again is interesting. I can't possibly, well, I won't say that, but the rules say in black and white, all units start unspotted. Yeah, unspotted. All units at the start of a situation are considered unspotted and marked as such. Couldn't get more blatant than that. So they're all marked unspotted. Frankly, I don't know why they're all marked unspotted. That's a very interesting way to start every situation. But now, if they all start unspotted, understand that there's like nothing between these units at all. Here we have a Panzer Grenadier unit in an improved position, staring straight across the opening at, well, they're in the orchard, so these guys in the open, 2 British platoons in an improved position. But in any case, it doesn't matter. Even if this unit were in the, you know, the middle of a Gulf range here, he starts unspotted. So the question is, when do they become spotted? It's very specific conditions, right? Moving adjacent, that's easy. And then being in the loss of a unit. Okay, a target spotting status is always determined at the time an action is taken against it. So actually, let's see how that would work. I guess this unit is out in the open. Yeah, I mean, it is in the open, other than being in, it's an open terrain, even though it's in an improved position. So actually, let's see how this works. Let's see. Oh, here we go. German units in clear terrain, in improved position, with a machine gun. Here, British units, machine gun 2, improved position. So are we saying the moment that you declare, you say, I'm firing at this unit, then we have to determine his spotting status? His spotting status, according to the rules, would be he is in clear terrain. He is in clear terrain, so actually he is he's spotted the instant at the time an action is taken against it, target's spotting status is determined. That tells me the German machine gun decides to fire. I mean, he has line of sight to the hex. The moment he fires, by the spotting rules, his status is spotted, not unspotted. So would it basically, even though I started the scenario with it on there, it's irrelevant. I'm going to fire. His spotting status, in fact, is spotted, in which case, why am I starting with a marker on it? He is, in fact, spotted. He fires, and no matter what happens, the German unit fires. When the German unit fires, he gets a spent marker, no matter what. And a unit with a spent disrupted or spent disrupted marker is also spotted, so he loses his unspotted status. It wouldn't matter anyways because he's in fact spotted from the British anyways. So again, it's odd. By definition, a unit is always considered spotted unless marked with an unspotted marker. But then it says all units at the start stage which are considered unspotted and marked as such. So that, again, I'm going to play the rules literally, but really in effect, the unspotted markers don't mean anything. Now, let's see, woods. Actually, not even going into this woods helps. Yeah. So, just kind of irrelevant. Starting with everybody marked unspotted, but that's, again, that's nothing but a game-ism. which is the same thing as these alt markers. Now that I'm starting, this will be my third scenario. This mechanic is, I find myself never suspending disbelief and thinking that this represents C2 or even leadership influence on the paper battlefield here. It's just too gamey. It's not that I have an issue with it. I just say this is a definite game mechanic just thrown on to basically regulate the I go, you go. Which again, I don't have an issue with that. That is what it is. But, you know, never do I think that this, for whatever reason, I'm never getting the sense that this is, you know, leadership influence. And perhaps one reason that I might be saying I'm not suspending my disbelief here is because this is regulating the I go, you go, the modified I go, you go. But one thing I'm noticing, and maybe, you know, I want to play more situations to see. One very interesting thing that has that's become very apparent is that I don't see either side in the turns that I've played so far. I don't see either side really encountering any serious limitation with the op markers they're given. Again, maybe that's just my experience so far, and maybe that will change. So, for example, the Germans are, well, the Germans are defending though. But anyways, the Germans, for all from the far left to the far right of their position, and from the front of their position to the back of their position, they're only going to have 4 or 3 ops markers per turn. 3 if one of their markers is the last in the cup. 3 or 4 markers. Well, actually looking at this now, maybe this will be the first time that I see a side actually pinched by this mechanic. Because so far, basically what I'm saying is, it seems to me that so far each side has had a, you know, have had more than enough ops markers to stay active in the fight. So I don't recall any tough decisions about using these ops markers yet. Not yet anyways. Alright, so this is situation HOD 3, Hill of Death 3, PanzerBlitz. Title is End of Jupiter.